Yeah, so how are you doing anyway?
You know, quarantine,
Quentin Quarantino, yeah.
quarantino. It's not ideal. And here in the UK, I feel like thanks to the flagrant ineptitude of our wet flannel of a government, we're probably going to be here a little longer than most.
Yeah, you were just telling me about Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, right?
We talked about it the very first podcast we did. We talked quite extensively about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I know sort of vaguely about it. It's kind of difficult to avoid if you're into anime. I really was not expecting it to be this bizarre. I've watched the whole first part. I've watched all of part one and a little tiny bit of part two, but I got to the bit when Joseph puts a pigeon in a woman's mouth.
Oh, I've not got that bit.
How do you explain that to somebody? How do
Oh,
you
no, you
reconcile
can't
that?
explain it. You can, I mean, I think my favorite thing about JoJo is that it kind of tries to rationalize the bullshit, you know?
Does
Like,
it?
well, yeah, no, like every so often it'll have those little cutscenes where it'll be like the scientific background of why Hammond works, which and it'll be like he's channeling the energy from the sun or something.
Yeah.
It's like and you think, yeah, that makes absolutely no sense. But I mean, I'm not like an extensive anime watcher, to be honest. Every so often I'll feel like the urge, and I have
to,
been
to, to
looking at.
drop to my level.
I did get lured in by Little Witch Academia. That's the one.
But the problem with Little Witch Academia is that it jumps the shark.
I don't remember Fonzie being that.
Well, props for knowing where the term jumps the shark comes from, but
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
because you get to the bit where literally they're having lightsaber duels, and at that point,
Oh yeah, that was
I
fun.
began to kind of lose my interest because I felt at that point they kind of failed to understand what made Little Witch Academia kind of entertaining. Yeah, Little Witch Academia, it's Harry Potter plus My Hero Academia. Like you take those two things and you just mash them together.
I'm gonna go against you there. I don't know if you know a certain little book series turned two times TV series called the Worst Witch.
Yeah,
And
yeah, no, you're right. It has more imprints of that because she, Akko really is dreadful. Like that's
I
a
mean, I'm not. I'm actually started. I have to admit, like all the way through, I was sort of wondering, is this based on the Worst Witch? Is
I
this
mean,
the Worst Witch with the codes filed off? So the first book was published in 1974, right? But the thing that really surprised me was I walked past like Waterstones like a few years ago, and it said the new Worst Witch book, and I was like,
there's
the
another one.
new Worst. Yeah, no, it's an ongoing series. It's been going on for so long, and it's still being written about.
Do you want to know something really cute?
Yeah, what was
When
it?
I was working at the
Mm.
film archives, they had like they primarily specialize in like home movies and amateur films, and they had like an old black and white movie from like just a movie that someone made at home with their daughter that was a little tiny short film adaptation of one of the Worst Witch books, and it was really
Oh,
good. It was actually really good. It was silent because obviously home movies at whenever this thing was made,
yeah,
were a little rudimentary. It was a pre VHS, but it
yeah,
was
we've
really
got.
good. It was really cute, and it was like it was called something like the Potion Master or something. They called it that. Um,
Oh, that's good.
and
Yeah.
it had that home movie charm. But you thought actually someone
Someone
here
put a lot of work into
put a
this.
lot of work
Yeah.
into it. Yeah, and it had all these like homemade special effects of the potion, of course, exploding in her face, and of course it's going to do that. Um,
It's just like, can you imagine like your parents helping you out with it? And it's like, I want to make something that explodes, and it's like, yeah, okay, let's do that. Yeah.
well, it's either that or it's the inverse, which is that it was like a passion project from her mother or her father or like a weird uncle. Um,
It's a weird. I'm going with the weird uncle.
Joey, do I have to, put my face into this ambiguous liquid that's
Yeah. No, it's not going to explode. Why did you
We'll be
say that?
fine. Don't sweat the small stuff, kid. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh no, it's not gonna explode until I make it. What was that? Nothing. Like I was just looking at the Wikipedia page for the West Witch, and would you know it? It says right at the bottom, see also Little Witch Academia.
I feel
I
like
was
I feel like I should do an intro before we carry on. But I guess it,
yeah.
it doesn't really matter. Hello and welcome back to Everything and Nothing, the podcast where we try to stave off the cabin fever in the endless isolation of coronavirus. Finally, I'm joined by the other third of Curmudgeon Media, Living Prose, aka Oliver. Hello, Oliver. Say hello. Introduce yourself.
Hello. How are you doing?
I don't care.
And tonight I'm drinking a vintage 2018 Chateau Neuf de Pape. No, not really. I'm drinking some cheap lager, but it helps the podcast flow. Completely changing the subjects. You've been getting all this wind.
Honestly, we haven't really had wind. We've just had smoldering heat. And the thing is that I'm in like a little room. It's good for, I suppose it's kind of good for acoustics, but like I'm in this tiny little room and my window is at like a slant, and the sun for most of the day is just filtering through that window, blasting straight onto my back like a magnifying glass on an ant.
Just pure heat.
Pure heat.
With Robert De Niro and Al Pacino.
For £3.
We could be at home watching that.
50 points to anybody who can guess what that's a reference to.
They won't get it, Jeremy. Because,
it's almost like the world is heating up somehow.
Everybody in my office, my boss included, is sort of wearing shorts with, business outfits on top. So
I think we should invent that. We're sitting on a gold mine. Business.
Yeah, summer suits, yeah.
So I feel like as global warming gets more and more intense, business shorts are going to be really taking off. For some reason I'm imagining this set up like a Hitchcock movie, like you're in this attic looking out the window and you witness a crime.
Well, like Rear Window.
Yeah, except you're not confined to the attic. The attic just happens to be the place where you witness this crime, and the rest of the movie is you sort of like at once avoiding being caught by this killer who knows you saw him, but also you're uncovering some
summer workwear.
I was going to say uncovering a grand conspiracy, but that too.
I'm also one of the greatest tailors who ever lived.
Just like Buffalo Bill.
It's Alexander McQueen witnessing a murder. That was that went to a weird place.
That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
The thing with you is that you're almost constantly drunk.
I am not.
Yes, you are.
No, I have to.
No, not drunk.
Only on weekends. Yeah.
You have like a constant. I feel like you're so accustomed to like a slight booziness that it's a sensibility that you never quite drop, even if you're not intoxicated.
I think I have a much higher bar for weirdness than like other people, so
I feel like I do actually. After having lived with you, my kind of we were something of a team.
we had a sketch show that never really got off the ground.
Oh, one day it will. One day we shall. For those listening, not that anyone cares, but we had this grand kind of plan to create like a radio show, which I guess you could describe as like the British Welcome to Night Vale, but it had less of a continuity than Welcome to Night Vale, because we had all these different kind of like mini skits that we wanted to do, like kind of film trailers for films that don't exist, and one of which I guess we kind of technically did, because we did an interview with Ken Loach for an imaginary Ken Loach film, which we called, which you called, was it The Boys Who Stare at Pylons, and one of them has no legs and lives in a wheelbarrow.
That was it, yeah.
A title which I had to say over and over again in the stupid skit that we did. Yeah. We ended up concocting an entire like alternate universe England.
Yeah, so like the basic idea of it was that even though there wasn't like a proper continuity in the way that like some radio shows were, there was sort of like a backstory to like to where these radio broadcasts were coming from, and like basically the Germans won World War II, then they ran out of money, had to withdraw, left no functional government per se.
So the BBC took over.
But the BBC was still there, and they had to, and they really wanted their license fee, so they kind of became like,
they were like a mafia, and the way we imagined it. Oh wow, this is crazy. The way we imagined it was that the two Ronnies were the Cray twins, the famous British mobsters, the Cray twins. I'm finding it hard to talk about this through this like massive smile on my face, which you can probably hear. the de facto thing of it, which I feel will end up being the thumbnail for this video, but the de facto kind of thing of it is that Richard Hammond was like the Scarface. He was like a completely superhuman, deranged lunatic.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, what else do you even say? It's like, but practically every single creative decision, if you can call it creative, that we made in this ridiculous kind of like alternate universe stupid thing revolved around something that Richard Hammond had done.
Tonight, I drive a combine harvester. Richard Hammond kills a man, and James May takes the fall.
Do you want to do an extra little bit that sounds like James May being taken away by the police and decrying for his innocence?
No, please help me. I'm innocent. It was Hammond. It was Richard Hammond.
Oh man.
It's not nearly as funny as we think it is. Yeah. So like, what else have you been doing during the lockdown?
I've been watching a lot of like 70s film noir though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 70s to 90s film noir. I'm gonna talk about Silence of the Lambs for a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm gonna slap down a hot take. Silence of the Lambs is a feminist masterpiece. It is a movie about womanhood, and every other installment of the Hannibal kind of like saga is a waste of my time because they aren't that. It's a waste of my time. With the exception of the movie Hannibal, which was made in the early 2000s, I think. None of them have a female protagonist. You know, even the before Silence of the Lambs, a lot of people forget there was a movie before that with Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter, and it had.
Come again?
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called.
Professor Brian Cox, formerly of D. Reed.
Yes, that Brian Cox.
I'm going to eat you, and that's wonderful.
It was called Manhunter. No, it was 1986. Sorry. And it was Brian Cox. It was directed by Michael Mann, who's actually, you know, he did Heat. Speaking of which, you know, speaking of Heat, he did Heat. And it's an okay movie, but the thing is, like, it's got the character who would then be, you know, it's based on a series of books, but it was like it would be picked up. The character of Will Graham, here played by William Peterson, would then be picked up for the TV series. But like, what made Silence of the Lambs the standout and what made it such a special movie is Clarice Starling, and the fact that it's such like a gendered movie, and the whole opening scene where she's like running through her headquarters, through the headquarters where she's doing her training, and the whole point of that sequence, laboring on that journey to her boss's office, is to show that she is this like single woman surrounded by a bunch of burly dudes, and you get that iconic shot of her stepping into the lift. Little tiny Jodie Foster. She's not like a tall woman. She's pretty slight in stature, walking into this lift surrounded by these huge guys. And there's like the color coding. They're all dressed in red and she's dressed in gray. And of course, the whole storyline of serial killers. She herself says in the movie that serial killers are often sexually motivated. And you really get that impression as she's walking through the asylum the first time. You got the dude flings semen at her. It's like, that is so important.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
You know, it's so important. And the fact that she maintains herself throughout all of that, you know, if anything, the fact that serial killers are so often sexually motivated makes her more of a target, more of like a hypothetically more of a victim, yet it remains so focused throughout the movie. And she can stand in a room full of like sexist state cops and she can say, get the hell out. And they leave. They listen to her. And at the end, when she's being like pursued by Buffalo Bill in his creepy, weird, horrible murder mansion.
Oh, yeah, that was not good.
It's not really a mansion, but a creepy house. And he switches the lights off and he's following around with a night vision. She's still, even though you can see she's utterly terrified, she's still laser focused. And at the end of the day, it is that focus that wins the day because he pulls back the hammer on the revolver and that sound gives her the upper hand. She's able to respond instantaneously and she takes him out. It is a movie about a woman fighting against all odds and succeeding and triumphing and prevailing, and I love it for that reason. It makes it such a special film to me. And then you get Red Dragon, it's just a sausage fest, and then you get the TV series Hannibal, it's just a sausage fest. The reason I don't count the sequel film Hannibal is because that movie although you've still got Clarice Starling, in this case played by Julianne Moore, that movie goes into like hokey territory. It basically becomes Saw, where it overbakes the psychopathy and the gore of it, and it becomes like gore porn.
The Hannibal film, I think that was kind of a product of its time, because it was very big on the whole ultra violent gore porn type stuff.
Yeah, it was that era.
I think Saw was always a film targeted at teenagers. I think we've all gone through a period where kind of like we're not allowed to watch like certain certificate films. So like when you're a teenager or whatever, you'll want to watch the 18 films just because they're rated 18.
Yeah, rated 18, yeah. I actually quite like the first Saw movie. I kind of respect movies that are really low budget and kind of do a lot with a little. And it's got the dude in it.
The worst witch film, the Potions Master, actually had a larger budget. Not many people know that.
Really? You mean the one that I saw?
Yep.
In the Screen Archives made at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the other dude who was in it, Lee Winnell or whatever his name is, or however you pronounce that name, he would direct a bunch of movies. He directed Upgrade, which for all its faults I actually really liked as far as like a kind of.
What is it?
It's the one with discount Tom Hardy. It was kind of silly. It was basically Deus Ex minus anything that made Deus Ex clever. Basically, it's in a world where technology has. It's very ham-handed, ham-fisted metaphors, but it's in a world where technology has overtaken everything. Cars drive themselves, drinks make themselves, and amidst all of that, you've got this character who has no like bio implants or anything, no chips in his brain, and he fixes cars, and it's very important to him that he maintains his humanity. And he does up like this beautiful Ford Mustang for someone, and that someone happens to be like the leader of this huge tech corporation, this like crazy tech genius, eccentric millionaire genius. And then when they're driving home in their self-driven car, they get derailed and attacked by thugs
and Elon Musk.
They get attacked by what you get if you mixed Elon Musk with Napoleon Dynamite and gave him a stash.
What does that even mean? I don't
even know if you watched it. Who is like this, I guess, like a terrorist of sorts, who's like all about New World Order with tech people, with mechanically enhanced folks.
Like Bob Page type.
He kills his wife and paralyzes him. And so Logan Marshall Green, being this dude that is, his physical body is really important to him. He can't do anything that he loves anymore, and his wife is dead, and he's really sad. And so crazy tech genius who he fixed up the car for comes to him. He's like, "Hey, dude, I've invented this microchip that's basically like an operating system for your body, and it'll help you walk again and turn you into like a."
Wow, that would actually be pretty sweet.
I liked the movie. It was very ham-fisted. It was obviously very low budget, but it looks great for its budget.
And the whole thing was a metaphor for alcoholism.
And the whole thing's actually, it's at the end of the day, it's about family.
And at the end, where like Santa comes down the chimney and the child recognizes him, and he just turns around and winks, pats her on the head and then disappears. That was really great too.
Yeah, it was a little strange. It was almost like I was watching a different movie, given the violent, brutal fight scenes up until that point.
Santa was the cause of most of the violent fight scenes.
It's a cool kind of dichotomy. It's sort of like what you'd get if Kit from Knight Rider. Imagine if Kit was inside of your body and could control your body. And there's this great fight scene early on in the kitchen when he's trying to pursue leads to find out why his wife was killed. And why do you do this to me? He's trying to pursue leads to find out why his wife was killed, and he breaks into this dude's house, and the dude obviously captures him, and he's getting his ass handed to him, and the operating system's all like, "Dude, let me take over, you're embarrassing yourself." And so he lets the operating system take over his body, and the operating system, being a computer, is like this expert martial artist and completely ruins this guy with the most brutal Glasgow grin I've ever seen in cinema.
You actually see it?
It's brutal. The movie is brutal, but it's actually pretty good. I actually really liked it. I think for me it stood out because I don't know about you. I would always favor a film that is kind of savvy and creative in a lot of ways, but falls flat, than a film that's crisp and clean but really uncreative. I actually really like the movies of Zach Braff, for instance, which get kind of railed a lot by people. I like them. I think they, it's clear like there's a lot of passion that goes into them. And that's how I describe
Neil Breen, of course. Neil
Breen.
Neil Breen.
Neil Breen. I don't.
Greatest artist of his generation.
Are you implying that Neil Breen falls flat in a few ways? Because I would contest that.
I mean, I'd say more sags than falls flat.
I would say this again. We talked about Neil Breen in our first podcast. It's like, why does
Oh
it always come back
no!
to Breen?
I
Neil
think he
Breen.
might be the centre of the universe. I
He clearly thinks he is. Neil Breen is a great filmmaker. There's no doubt about it. I mean, like Scorsese. Did you read that thing that Scorsese wrote? I think it was like for the New Yorker. It was about him trying to explain his comments about why Marvel movies aren't cinema. And what the essay was saying was, look, I watched Double Down, and nothing compares. And
Really?
Marvel isn't Double Down. Yeah.
That's big respect. Wow.
If Martin Scorsese thinks you're a great filmmaker, you're probably a great filmmaker. Martin Scorsese also said, I quit filmmaking because I will never make a movie
Like
as
Double
good as
Down.
Double Down. The Irishman is his last film, and it's because of Double Down. The film school brats I've got a lot of respect for. Brian De Palma had like this one-upmanship kind of game going on
Neil Breen.
with Neil Breen, not with Martin Scorsese. And I think it was when he was making like Scarface or something. He's like, this is going to be my magnum opus. This is going to be better than anything Scorsese could make. And then he went to see Raging Bull and just came out feeling like, why do I always do this to myself? Like, you can't outdo Scorsese. That's how Scorsese felt watching
Neil
all
Breen.
that.
Yeah.
You know, I think the biggest tragedy actually of Ian Holm, rest in peace, passing away, is that he never got to star in a Neil Breen film.
Yeah.
Those were his last words. I feel like I'm
It's
disgracing the memory of a man who actually died very recently.
so we've got a message with a film question, Tom, and
This is making
he,
it sound like we're an actual radio show who get
yeah.
callers in to ask questions.
Hey Ollie, there's a character in something who gives themselves Chinese burns when they fuck up. I can't remember what it's from. Does that ring any bells to you? I can't say it does. How about you, Tom?
I got nothing. I'm drawing a blank.
It does sound like one of those things you do when just to like get out and be like pretend that you got attacked or something. Like you know in like Johnny English where he's like pretending he's being fighting some agents around the doorway. Okay.
Oh, man, I
But
forgot
like
about
the
the
high
first Johnny
school.
English movie was great.
Oh, it was. But like it'd be like the school equivalent, you know. It's a bit lower bar. It's just Chinese burns. It'd be
Yeah.
like I'm being bullied. But actually,
How do you give yourself Chinese burns? Like, don't you need both hands for that?
how you say that? That is a
Like,
puzzle.
I'm trying it on myself, and I'm like, how does like otherwise you're just twisting your arm skin. It doesn't have the same like the Chinese burn comes from the fact that one arm is twisting one way and the other arm's twisting the other way, and it creates that like.
What is the physics behind that?
What are the physics behind that? You know, ambiguous person whose name is also Tom.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. I'm sorry, Tom. We're completely at a loss,
we
you know.
cle-
But we think it's some sort of high school comedy about a man, not a man, a boy or a girl just hurting themselves to get attention.
Sounds like a movie directed by Bob Geldof. I don't know why Bob Geldof. I just like that man's name, and I felt
Yeah,
like
yeah.
saying it.
I think that's Neil Breen's next movie, isn't it?
What
Which,
a biopic about Bob Geldof.
yeah, but he's playing Bob Geldof
I can't really imagine him
as Bob
as Bob
Geldof.
Geldof because Bob Geldof, you always get the impression he's kind of like wizened, but
Well,
he's
that's
not
the
an
thing,
action
you
hero.
know.
He's
You
not
know,
an action hero, so I can't imagine Neil Breen making a movie about him because Neil Breen.
you're underestimating Neil Breen. You know, like he's not doing like Bob Geldof's music career. He's talking about his sort of career as a spy. You know,
Oh yeah, Bob Geldof, the famous international super spy.
he's a man of mystery. Yeah, I'm thinking that he's constantly getting loads and loads of women just chasing after him, and he lives in Vegas, unlike the real Bob Geldof.
It's
But
the thing about Breen is that I mean, not only does every woman in his movies want to rip their clothes off and bed him, a lot of
I
them
mean,
look
wouldn't you?
really young. A lot of them don't
Yeah.
look like they're of age. Some of the characters in the movies actually aren't of age, and it's like, this is a bit. You're both naked in a shower right now. This is a bit suspect.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one, and I feel like we're going into a Breen tangent again. A Breengent.
A Breegent, if you will.
Yeah, and well, that kind of sounds like he's like ruling in place of a monarch or something.
Soylent,
He's
Soylent
regent.
Green.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean during the course of this whole lockdown thing, I've really been consuming a really tremendous amount of media. I now think I have complete understanding of all of Western pop culture.
You
But
mean like Cave Johnson rewriting the entire literary canon of the human race?
yeah,
Yeah,
and that
it's. I mean, now's the time, isn't it? This is the time to really make the most of it.
to really start again. Yeah, I mean, I say that I've also been playing a hell of a lot of Overwatch. It's now my
I've
thing.
never really been drawn in by Overwatch, I have to admit.
The funny thing about Overwatch is that they've got this really surprisingly extensive like lore. The thing that bothers me is that like you got the Overwatch, they're like this team superheroes, they're like the Justice League type Avengers type thing, and then you got these like mercenaries who are like the evil guys, like ooh, the man who dresses like the Grim Reaper, the one who dresses like a cowboy.
The one who
Um,
dresses like Gary Busey,
Gary
coming
Busey,
coming
yeah,
soon.
and that would make sense if the battling was, like, so you're always facing off against the rival
Which you
people.
don't necessarily.
No, no, and actually, the game mechanics make it so that you're perfectly likely to be clobbering up your fellow heroes, or that the heroes and the villains are going to be working alongside to beat each other's friends up. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't
Pure
make any
anarchy.
sense.
One
It's
day they
just,
were just like, "Hey guys, should we just like start a fight club?"
yeah. So I don't understand why you go into such an extensive lore if the entire game is not going to represent that at all. But no, I'm just waiting for the inevitable Overwatch go-karts spin-off. Because they're clearly not respecting their specific roles in this whole scenario.
I guess there's like Devil Mercy, who I suppose is like the equivalent of like Wario and Waluigi.
Yeah.
Wah!
uh,
There's a YouTube channel that does songs in the voice of Waluigi. It's
I
frankly beautiful.
my favorite thing at the moment is just this video that's like a paleo rock. It's just this stupid video which is "You Shook Me All Night Long," but it's just done in like squawking kind of noises, and it's really good. I don't know why I just found it. First I found it funny, and then I recognized the tune. Now I actually enjoy it in a
So what
very
you're saying is at
ironic
first
way.
you were afraid, you
I
were
was petrified.
petrified.
Yeah. I kept thinking I could never live without you, Batman. What? I've forgotten what we were talking about.
You were
Yeah,
talking about brutalist
yeah,
architecture
yeah.
and
So,
whether or not it has a place in
well, I mean,
modern.
the thing about brutalist architects, they always try to like use the landscape around them. The early brutalist architects, they were all very much about trying to incorporate the local stones and things. They weren't about being as sparse as possible. That wasn't what they were about. The sparseness was sort of a side effect of them trying to incorporate the natural materials which they were using. It's only
Yeah.
really as things got like more derivative and further from the original point that we get like the crappy brutalist reputation,
Yeah,
of
I think
saying
I have a
concrete.
very leftist critique of brutalism, even though brutalism comes from like a socialist
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
I have a very leftist criticism of it, which is all to do with social stratification and brutalist architecture sort of elevates social stratification because you end up finding lower classes relegated to these complexes which are built for like social housing, but end up
yeah,
being very horribly maintained, and it ends up sort of propagating socially stratified neighborhoods that are hard to break out of, and that's where you get things like Grenfell Tower. So thank you very much for watching our architecture show.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not just as like an additional point. I think people also really forget that the reason why brutalist architecture got so popular is because it was usually used by governments.
That's the
Because
problem. And when you've got
yeah,
like the Tory government, which has been
mm,
in power for a decade, that architecture is going to be hijacked by people who have no interest in the well-being of the lower classes.
Yeah, but what do you see with like governmental architecture is it's all really about making a statement about what the government in power is actually about. And during the whole like height of brutalism thing, the whole idea was really to sort of make it look like you're spending as little money as possible, public money.
This right here is what Everything and Nothing is all about. 1 minute we're talking about Overwatch, and then the next minute we're talking about brutalism.
This really went out the window, didn't it?
Yeah. I mentioned brutalism as a joke because I was like, what is the opposite of what we were talking about? And I just like threw brutalism in there. But we ended up actually having what I think was kind of an interesting little back and forth about brutalism.
Yeah, I mean, you accidentally hit on one of my little passions, which is
the thing is, I keep seeing a lot of sort of left-wing friends of mine who I really respect sharing a lot of kind of like praise of brutalism. The problem is that a lot of people associate brutalism as like the opposite of traditionalism, the opposite of like classical architecture.
Yeah.
And in many ways, I guess it is, because a lot of right-wing people are against brutalism for the reason that they appeal to the tradition of classical architecture. But they actually aren't really related in such a straightforward way. To be against brutalist architecture in the way that I feel like I am does not mean I am for classical architecture. Although it's beautiful to look at, I feel like it doesn't really have a place beyond serving as like a relic.
The trouble as well with like constructing stuff in a sort of a old-fashioned style is that you're always really quite aware that it's not actually the original. It's like a facsimile. And I live not far from Truro, right? They recently built a whole load of houses on sort of the outskirts, which are sort of Regency designed. And I'll admit they did a damn good job. But all in all, you can still kind of subtly tell that they weren't actually there. They're not real. And I think I don't want to say like in the sense that anything goes kind of thing, because I don't think that's what architecture should be about. I think you should be sensitive with what already exists. But I think there's a delicate balance to be struck, because you don't want to be senseless with the building, but you also don't want to end up getting stuck in a situation where you're where you're just sort of pandering to the past.
Something I've actually started doing. I've started trying to think of creative ways I can create animatics, because I don't own a graphics tablet. Frankly, I don't have the money right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm still in education. I don't have a job right now. So what I've done is I've just literally drawn these things on paper, and I've drawn like dolls, where I draw a torso and a head that's like a cartoon version of me, and I've drawn different sets of eyebrows and eyes and mouths and arms gesticulating that you can basically drag and drop. And I've scanned them all in, and I've put them all on GIMP.
It a bit.
Yeah, except it serves as an animatic less than an animation. In the same way that people like YMS do, and overly sarcastic
those
productions.
Kind of things. Yeah.
Overly sarcastic productions, I think, is a better example. But I don't have a graphics tablet, so I've had to do it all analog. And I feel like we could actually turn some of these stupid skits into animatics and dump them on our worthless YouTube channel.
I'm not doing so well at the moment, especially
everyone's gained a
after
little
everything.
Bit of weight.
Yeah.
I've just added a bit of tummy cheese onto myself.
Never heard
I
that
just
phrase
I just invented that word. That's trademarks. That's now my thing.
But if anybody wants to use that, you're gonna have to
get in contact.
Yeah.
Every time you use it, it's like £100. So send it to 76 Ocean Road, St. Brismuth. That's a very corrupted version of my actual address.
I used to go to St. Brismuth on the weekends with my parents.
And Aunt Margaret.
Aunt Margaret's hands.
She had the slipperiest hands.
Warm and clammy. Oh yeah, that's another part of our crazy, stupid little radio venture that we forgot to mention. I guess it all started with Aunt Margaret's hands, because we ended up deciding after the fact that it was going to be called Aunt Margaret's Hands, even though Aunt Margaret's Hands was really only a small part of it. So tell the dear listeners at home, what is Aunt Margaret's Hands?
So it all started one day when we were living in a shared house, and the boiler exploded and poured water all over the kitchen floor.
Classic.
And I was out, and I came back, and the first thing I said, well, what the hell happened here? The floor is damp and clammy like Aunt Margaret's hands. Then we started constructing a little world of what Aunt Margaret was like. You know, she uses a shower curtain made of ham. So she's eccentric and possibly a little disturbed.
Yeah, it ended up sort of being like the journal, or like
Some
the radio
kid.
adaptation of a journal that some kid had written during World War II when he was evacuated.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, it was
To live with his Aunt Margaret, who was a horrible racist, possibly a cannibal. Definitely.
It was in the West Country.
Aunt Margaret
Yeah.
could smell you from 15 miles away. She had a very large nose and nostrils like
Cannon.
dish rags.
Yeah, so and there was always going to be like a bit of a dripping noise in the background.
Like, it doesn't sound like water, it sounds a little too thick to be water, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Aunt Margaret was pungent. It's like, I have to admit, like, it was basically very derivative of salad fingers, but on the radio, so I doubt we'd ever kind of get away with that. But I feel like as part of the overarching stupidity of our ridiculous radio show, it was quite something. We also, you also did an advert for milk, which I think was the very first thing.
Do actually have a recording of that.
That you do have a recording of, which we will play now.
And now, a message from the Milk Board of Great Britain.
Milk in your tea? Of course. But which do you choose? Full fat? Skimmed? There must be another way. And there is. Semi-skimmed milk from whoever makes the milk. Next time you think of having milk, think about having a semi.
Which you just sent to me. Like, you're a master procrastinator. No one cares about any of this, but I don't really care. I get to say it anyway. You've perfected the art of procrastination. Like, when most people procrastinate, they do nothing, or they sit and they watch TV, or they like. You are very, very productive at doing everything but what you're supposed to be doing. So all of a sudden you'll uncover like some magical ability in Photoshop, or you will record a radio skit, or you'll write a book, or something.
It's just, I
you
don't know.
Some grand virtual reality in Minecraft, but you will not write that assignment.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
and I'm sat there in the library trying to get my essay done, and all of a sudden I get this message, and I listen to it, and it's this ridiculous advert for milk.
Well, you know, it's I don't know why I just feel compelled to do these things. I mean, my hands, they just do what they will. Damn these hands. Anyway, I think we've done over an hour now. So
we have done over an hour. Normally I aim for like an hour and a half because we end up cutting stuff out.
Yeah, but we're also going to splice in some of the fun.
Frankly, my nose is so blocked right now. And you can expect an ASMR supercut of all the sneezing and nose blowing, which is very soothing. There's nothing more soothing than the sound of someone ejecting vast quantities of mucus out of their nostrils.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely a market somewhere.
Furries exist, so not to disrespect the furry community. I think if there's any community that I actually outspokenly respect, it's the furry community. I've got a lot of friends who are furries, and it's like they're very inclusive, and they're just like boisterous and unashamed.
You have to be quite brave to sort of.
Anyone who's willing to roast in one of those suits in a convention in California, you have my respect.
They have conventions in California. My God, I would do that in like, I don't know, Alaska, for Christ's sake. Somewhere where you don't need like air conditioning on.
From what I hear, some of those suits are actually air conditioned. I'm googling if they're ventilated or not.
It also seems like it'd have like a lot of power requirements, you know, like.
I feel like I've just doomed myself to.
Do they? Yeah.
Horrible advertisements.
Like, you're on some kind of like weird ad list now where you're gonna get spammed with like weird stuff. Maybe our government watched this too. I don't know. But
They're
yeah,
listening
no.
to
I mean,
rag on.
I'm just imagining that it probably takes like a lot of power to keep like an air conditioning unit inside a mascot suit to actually
Honestly,
like keep going around.
I may be making this up. I heard it somewhere, and as far as citations go, I heard it somewhere. It doesn't really hold up.
I'm
So I
just
could be wrong.
imagining a Catman with like a plug coming out of the back that's like it has to stay plugged inside, plugged into the wall.
It's like Neon Genesis Evangelion. They can only be away from there. Like they have to be plugged in all the time. They can only be away from
Oh
it so long.
yeah.
I have actually officially watched all of Neon Genesis Evangelion. I can proudly, finally say.
Wow. I only watched the series, but
I've only watched the series. Yeah, I watched the
I
series
just
because I had to, because I was writing an essay. This is where we get into boring territory. I was writing an essay last semester about like depictions of cataclysm in Japanese media, and I thought, hey, let's talk about Neon Genesis Evangelion. And I had to watch all of it, and I've never agonized over something in my life. I feel like Evangelion is a show you can enjoy more if you're not watching it all in like 2 days because you're rushing because you've got to write an essay on it.
yeah.
Normally, people would choose to write about something they'd seen, but me, being the absolute backwards fool that I am, thought I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to decide to write about something I hadn't seen
Yeah.
yet. It was agonizing. I hated the experience. I think Evangelion is a fascinating show. I think it's obviously got a lot going for it. Brilliant shot composition.
Yeah. Lots of very nice sketches, frame by second sketches.
What it lacks in animation budget, it makes up for in like the shot composition.
Confusing endings. Yeah,
it makes up for in confusing endings and like 50-second long sequences in an elevator where nothing happens.
Those are the core of the entire show. What are you talking about?
I guess because I've seen.
It's what Miyazaki would call Ma.
Yeah, Ma, which I have also written about extensively. It's really borrowing from Ozu there, but I guess as somebody who's watched a lot of Ozu and somebody who's watched a lot of like experimental movies, because I'm a psychopath, 50 seconds in an elevator didn't actually stand out that much to me, and I know it's a very infamous scene, but I thought actually this isn't that weird to me. I didn't think it was that weird.
Yeah, I mean, not many people realize, but Ma is actually short for Ma budget run out.
That's a real fact.
That's a real rock fact.
Actually, speaking of that's a rock fact, I have always wanted to like write about Over the Garden Wall, but I've never I don't think I can.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a bit too abstract sometimes.
I wouldn't even say it's abstract. It's lightning in a bottle, and I just don't think there are any words I can put together that can explain kind of concisely why Over the Garden Wall is the greatest thing ever made by a human.
Well, it's like there was this one book that I was actually planning to write about. It was called In the Miso Soup, and it's about this guy.
Yeah, I know. Strangely enough, I know about that book.
Oh, really?
Normally, that's a book that you'd explain to me and I wouldn't know about, but I actually do know about that book.
Oh, cool. That's good. But yeah, no. Just
Who is
for
it?
the sake of the audience. Ryu Murakami. Yeah, that's it. But anyway, just for the sake of the audience, so it's this guy who sort of works as sort of unlicensed tour guide for Tokyo's red light district for sex tourists basically, and he sort of gets this guy called Frank that comes and hires him, and he slowly starts to suspect that Frank might be a serial killer because he's been getting a lot of news reports and things. He's been sort of seeing things like that, and so he gets like slowly more tense. And there is this one scene actually in the book towards the end, and the book kind of deals a lot with things like memory and how that forms who we are. Anyway, there's this bit in the end where the killer, because there is actually a killer. I'm not going to spoil the ending on that, but the killer sort of explains his motives, and he talks about how as a child he used to eat his mother's madeleines, the cakes, and he also talks about this encounter with a swan in a park, and I wanted to really write about that, but I couldn't find the ways to concisely explain that. And the reason why that's so interesting to me is because it's I don't know how many other people picked up on it, but I feel like it's a reference to Proust's In Search of Lost Time. Yeah,
Now
I
this
know,
this
right?
is the kind of conversation I can expect from you, where it gets a little more heady.
Yeah, no, I mean, In Search of Lost Time is about a guy sort of reminiscing about his life towards what I presume is the end of it, and it has this bit where it's called the Madeline moment in sort of academia or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's about how he eats this cake which is a Madeline, and how he's sort of transported back to his childhood, and he talks about how he had this encounter with this man whose name is called Monsieur Swan. And
Ah.
it's clearly some kind of reference, but I've been struggling to sort of put it into words, you know? It's one of those things that I'm not sure I'll ever fully get to grips with, but I know it's there. I know it's there.
Yeah.
I just don't know
There
what
are
he
some-
means by it.
There are some like books and movies and things that you watch or read that are just so heady that you don't think you'll ever fully understand them. Like
Yeah.
2001. I feel that way with Watchmen. I wrote that massive, like 9,000 word
Oh, God, yeah.
Watchmen analysis, which I actually will turn into a video essay eventually. And even then, I don't feel like I fully explained everything that makes Watchmen amazing, which is a hell of a lot because
But yeah, no, like in terms of In the Miso Soup though, it's a really great book.
Hey,
I
we're in quarantine right now. Anybody who's listening,
really recommend.
hit the books. And why not start with a recommendation from Curmudgeon Media's resident book reviewer to read In the Miso Soup. Funny thing about you is because Curmudgeon Media is a 3-person venture. You and Green Ornstein are like polar opposites. Talking to Green Ornstein on here, he's very kind of like laconic, but he's also like a great kind of everyman. You are the opposite of all of that.
Oh, God.
In the
Yeah.
best way possible. It's why you're both great, and why you produce very different kind of writing.
I'm glad I could be around,
But also the funny thing that a lot of people don't know about you is that you actually don't know how to read or write. Everything
No,
is
it's
flagged. It just
I don't even know what the books I'm writing about are actually about. I kind of guess, and I have this amazing ability to usually guess right.
But the thing is, you don't even know what letters and words mean, so you just kind of like scribble symbols.
Yeah, I'm sort of at the far end of like the probability curve, like the monkeys riding the typewriters. Just I'm here just hitting every single one of Shakespeare's plays. Don't even know what I'm doing, but I am just there.
Yeah, it's spectacular.
It's almost uncanny. I mean, it makes you sort of wonder if there may actually be a god.
And if you have some kind of sick sense of humor.
Anyway,
yeah,
boy, we've been talking for quite a while now.
Yeah, this is actually the first time we've spoken like this
in quite a while.
Gotta be over a year. Obviously, we should do more of these. We've been all over the place. We've talked about Neil Breen. We've talked about Silence of the Lambs. We've talked about Brutalism.
Yeah. I think it's time for you to maybe play us out, huh?
Play us out, Jim.
Jim! Oh my God,
Jim?
he's not breathing. He's not breathing. He's not breathing.
Call an ambulance.
Ah!